Good morning, everybody, and a happy Tuesday morning to you. A big thank you to that one on Twitter for this picture. She said we should have a magazine like this. I have to say, I completely agree. As usual, there is a lot in here, including that whole ridiculous football video that Megan put up. There's just a lot, okay? So let's just jump in and get busy because there's too much. Let's go. We're going to start with King Charles. He attended this past Sunday church service at St. Mary Magdalene Church in Sandringham. I am sure that he felt the need, if you are truly religious, sometimes you feel the need to unburden yourself to God. And with everything going on this week with Charles and with Andrew, I'm sure Charles felt some comfort in there. Charles was seen going in, and then Charles was seen coming out. Looking mighty spry to me. All right, moving on. Catherine and William and their children have officially moved into their new home. They moved into Forest Lodge in Windsor with the children. They moved during the school half term and are settling in. Now, this is why Catherine is not going to the Earthshot Prize, because you know when they moved, there's boxes everywhere. You guys know how that goes. There's boxes everywhere. They had to box everything up. She has to put everything where she wants it. She has to unpack the clothing. I don't believe for one second that she's got people doing all of that for her. She's the kind of hands-on person. She's going to have the children unpacking their own clothes and doing their own things. Anyway, that's why she's staying behind, and the kids are out of school. It is being reported that they held a thank you party for the builders and staff at the York Club, which is a private pub near Forest Lodge. It's members only for residents and employees of the Crown Estate. I think that's lovely. It appears they worked around the clock to move them in earlier than anticipated. That's why they wanted to go out of their way to say thank you. Next up, King Charles and Queen Camilla made a private donation to the relief efforts in Jamaica and other Caribbean nations after the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa in late October, early November. It was made to the Red Cross humanitarian appeal. The exact amount of the donation has not been announced because that's customary for personal donations. It came out of their pockets, okay? So of course, as soon as that happened, Harry and Meghan came out. We've donated. Actually, if you read the article, they did not donate. The money came from Archwell, which is money donated to Archwell, so they haven't given a dime of their own money. Now, about that time, another message went out from King Charles expressing that he was, quote, truly shocked and appalled by the knife attack on the train near Huntingdon. And in his message, he sends his deepest sympathy and thoughts with those affected and their loved ones, as well as gratitude to all the emergency services for their responses. And of course, it wasn't long before a Kensington Palace spokesperson spoke out and said that he had spoken to William that morning, and he was asked to express him and Catherine's thoughts for the family and friends of all those that were impacted by the horrific events, and to express his thoughts are also with first responders and train staff. Now let's move on. It's sort of with Andrew, but still with William. That Andrew Lowney guy has come out and said that William has had a feud with Andrew, and it all stems from a rude comment Andrew made about Catherine, and it's in The Rise and Fall of the Yorks. According to the book, William is furious at the way he was ambushed at the funeral for the Duchess of Kent, and he's upset that they walked up to him because he's gone out of his way to try to distance himself from Andrew and not be photographed with him. He also believes that King Charles had not dealt with him sufficiently with enough firmness, and that the two of them have done much to undermine the good work of other members of the royal family, all of which, by the way, is true. We already know, and I already reported to you, that William has a zero-tolerance approach to behavior that could damage the monarchy's reputation, and he has been one of the driving forces behind efforts to distance Andrew from the family. FYI, the problem with Catherine and Andrew came from Andrew's attitude because he felt she was not aristocratic enough to marry into the family. In other words, he's a snob. All right, let's move on. As for Sarah, this is very interesting. They're saying she's actually more on edge and nervous than Andrew, and is actually hunkering down in the Royal Lodge surrounded by Amazon deliveries. Well, that sounds like something she would do. We know that whenever she's stressed, she likes to buy things. She keeps repeating, what if I hadn't done this, or what if I hadn't done that? And they're saying now that she's actually considering leaving the country. It's being reported her phone has stopped ringing. Those who were willing to defend her less than a month ago don't want anything to do with her. It's a disaster for her professionally and personally. And her book that was about to be, come out is now being delayed. It was supposed to hit the shelves October 9th. Now it's only showing it's available on Amazon starting November 28th. She can't even publish her books. She won't even have an income stream. So this could get interesting quickly. Now, I told you guys this stuff is going to keep being drip fed out, and here we go. It's being reported now that Andrew arranged a private tour of Buckingham Palace with a company that had a business deal with Sarah Ferguson. So he planned the tour for Jay Bloom and Michael Evers from cryptocurrency mining firm Pegasus Group Holdings, and they agreed to pay Sarah £1.4 million. The tour, which was held while Queen Elizabeth was in residence at the palace in June of 2019, was arranged specifically by Andrew, and the businessmen whose company employed Sarah as a brand ambassador were collected from their 5-star Knightsbridge hotel in a car owned by Andrew and driven to the palace. Businessmen then attended Andrew's pitch at the palace event at St. James Palace later that day, then had dinner with Andrew, Sarah, and Princess Beatrice. Now, the tour came at the same time Sarah was working with Pegasus Group Holdings. Her role was to promote plans to use thousands of solar-powered generators to mine Bitcoin at a remote site in the Arizona desert. The project failed. Only 615 of the planned 16,000 generators were acquired, and Sarah received a stake in the business and was paid more than £200,000 for her work in the company. Then, of course, there was the separate bonus worth millions. And a big thank you to this Twitter user for pointing out that Beatrice and Eugenie have always envied Catherine. Sarah is probably going to write a book to tell her side of the story, and it's going to be another attempt to defame the royal family, the same tactic that Harry and Meghan did. But let's see if Sarah explains why she took her daughters to see Epstein after he was out of prison. Virginia Giuffre's brother, who has been all over the news and demanded that Andrew be stripped of his York title, and he was. Then he demanded he lose his Prince title, and he was. Then they demanded he be moved from his home, and he was. He's now demanding a meeting with King Charles. I would tell him to go jump. It's enough already. Why aren't you talking about any of the other people who have abused your sister? Why are you laser focused on Andrew? Ugh. Now, remember, there was some talk about Andrew getting some compensation for leaving Royal Lodge early. However, the house is in such bad shape and needing repairs, it's saying he's probably not going to get that money. Also being reported is that Andrew's final title, honorary rank of Vice Admiral of the Royal Navy, is going to be removed from him. The UK government is in that process at the request of King Charles. Now remember, I agree with this Twitter user. This was a photo of a photo of a photo. And some people brought up some interesting things. I told you, nobody's ever seen an original. So here's one thing that was brought up. Look at the white around Andrew's head. Let me zoom in. And so people are saying that looks like it's photoshopped. And then, of course, this picture showed up. Yeah, it makes you wonder, though, a little bit. All right, we are back to Harry and Meghan stuff now. And don't forget about the trick-or-treating where they just happened to be caught, walking through the neighborhood. Well, then this came out. Apparently, somebody took a video of them. I don't believe for 1 second that somebody took a video and then sold it to Carl Lawson. But this neighborhood that they're walking around in is a private gated neighborhood. It's not where they live. So the question is, number one, how did they get into the neighborhood? Number two, how did this person happen to recognize them, whip out his camera, and take this video? Yeah, there's something weird going on here. Forget the bug there in the middle, although I think that might be a reflection on the camera. Yeah, something weird is happening here. All right, let's move on now. This article is so eye-opening, it's scary. So basically, this talks about the fact that Harry, after he left the royal family, was constantly calling back for money. Remember, Charles had agreed to fund their lifestyle for a year. They agreed to fund security for a year, but after the year was up, they had to fund it themselves, and they were finding the transition hard. As time went on and the constant phone calls and the dramatics went on, it's being reported that the Queen ordered Harry's calls be directed to his father. But unfortunately for Harry, Charles had also grown tired of his rants. And after Harry swore at him over the phone one day and demanded more money, he stopped taking his calls. "I'm not a bank," Charles said. And there was, of course, the Oprah interview where they accused the royal family of racism and family rips and mental health struggles. And this is right when Prince Philip was very sick and was in the hospital for a heart procedure. And of course, the two brothers spoke on the phone, and then Gayle King revealed it on the morning news the next day. So here we have the Queen in the twilight of her reign, and she's being attacked by her grandson. Oh, it was 2 months after Philip's death that Meghan gave birth, and they announced to the world that they had named the child Lilibet, honoring the Queen's childhood nickname. The BBC immediately reported that the Queen had not been consulted. Harry insisted he had her blessing, and Buckingham Palace said nothing. So, of course, what does Harry and Meghan do? They called the Sussex's lawyers, called the BBC report false and defamatory, and threatened legal action. But, of course, just like with Tom Bower and everybody else, no lawsuit followed. But according to the palace, the Queen, when she first learned of the name from the morning press, was so angry she threw the paper to the floor. And by the way, during one of the Sussex's final UK visits before her death, they skipped a planned tea, the daily ritual that was so precious to the Queen, and they skipped it without giving her notice. The point of this story is the fact that Harry and Meghan didn't care about the Queen, didn't care about hurting her feelings, didn't care about anything she had to say. I think this was punishment from them because they cut them off. No more free security, no more free money. We all know what happened next. The Queen died, and literally 3 months later, Harry and Meghan's Netflix thing came out where she made fun of the Queen with the curtsy and all of this stuff. And then not long after that, The Spare came out. And so Harry's relentless attacks on his family appear to be absolutely unstoppable. But this is why people now are saying that they want Harry's titles stripped. And by stripping Harry, there goes Meghan's titles. You know, another thing that Harry said that people are concerned about was when he gave that interview to Hoda with his arrogance, talking about, we have to be sure that the Queen is surrounded. Who's surrounding her? While in the Netherlands in 2022 for Invictus Games, he gave an interview to Hoda on NBC's US morning show to discuss the Invictus Games. But instead, he started talking about Queen Elizabeth. And he said he stopped in the UK on his way there and had a private tea with her. And she was in great form after her recent bout with COVID. And then said he was making sure that she was protected and got the right people around her. And he even alleged that Queen Elizabeth would share secrets with him that she couldn't reveal to anybody else. And those comments even infuriated the palace because he basically implied that her other children and grandchildren were excluded from her confidence. That Charles and William and the Queen's staff were inadequate for the task of looking after the Queen. And so he attacked the family again. He just keeps attacking the family. People were really upset. And it was with that Downing Street issued a statement that the Queen was well protected. I think the point of all the articles was to say, since Harry hurt the Queen so badly, since Harry caused so much angst and issues, why does he still have his title? I agree. After all the hurt he caused her, he should lose his titles. Let's move on. Now, with all of this, we're going to move on to that ridiculous video that Meghan Markle put out, that staged video. First of all, her friend Kelly Zafin, Heart Mom, put up this post saying, "Oh, sorry your team didn't win. Dodgers, I love you." The problem is she also put up that she was watching it at home with her kids. Here's the picture. So a blind item came out basically saying that after watching it, she went over to Harry and Meghan's and they sat down and this whole thing was staged. But we knew it was staged as soon as we saw the video. It was absolutely the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen. To start with, Meghan in the video comes running into the room shrieking. I've taken the sound out because it's like nails down a chalkboard. But when you slow it down, you notice Meghan looks to the right to make sure the camera's on her. Then she runs up to Harry. "Oh, Harry!" Harry looks completely disinterested. He looks at the camera at one point, and actually, he looks to me like he's pushing her off because he realizes that he's being used as a prop in one of her Instagram posts. So after trying to look like she's a loved up display, she turns around to Kelly Zafin and they're like, oh, 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 and they're jumping up and down. Now remember, Kelly'd already watched the game over at her house with her daughter. This was so fake. It was such a joke. I do have one question. Where's Harry's friends? Why is he sitting in this room watching the game alone? Where's Archie? You get my point? This man is so isolated, and you never ever hear about Nacho anymore. Thank you to this Twitter user for pointing this out, which is, worse. Both of them are pretty damn bad. Now, don't forget that during the Oprah show, Doria taped them while they were watching the show, and they used it, later on in the Netflix docuseries. So people were saying that didn't look like Harry and Meghan's movie room, but actually we have pictures from the original listing. As you can see, the beams on the top, there were pictures on the wall when it was originally listed. That is the same room. It is. They just, took down the decorations. Now we're going to end this video with Talk TV host Kevin O'Sullivan, because he went online during Halloween and he talked about Harry and Meghan. He talked about the trick-or-treating. He talked about her recent video. He talked about the pumpkin patch. He talked about everything, and every single thing that he said made perfect sense. So basically, I just want you to sit back now and listen to what he said, because it was absolutely spot on perfect. Here we go.
Meghan Markle. That sales technique in full. Film the back of her kids' ginger heads, attach schmaltzy message, add nauseating soundtrack, post on Instagram, wait one day, and then sell, baby, sell. Welcome to, as ever, her ladyship's oddball online store, where the weirdness never stops. What's new on the poorly stocked shelves now? Candles at $64 each, and a new range of wine. Yours for just $89 a bottle. No thanks. Who exactly does Ms. Markle see as her target market? Billionaires? Meanwhile, Manic Meg is reported to have launched Project 4, a concerted effort to mend the Sussexes' icy relationship with Harry's furious royal family back in Britain. Why? Because, of course, she's terrified, with good cause, that William plans to strip his hated brother of his dukedom as soon as possible, which in turn will reduce her to plain old Mrs. Markle of Montecito. After the humiliating removal of preposterous Prince Andrew's titles, the current Duchess of Sussex suddenly wants to be friends with Princess of Wales Kate again. Good luck with that. But back to Meghan's tycoon dreams and Mum of the Year's promotional strategy, exploiting little Archie and Lilibet with a sickening inevitability straight after that touching video featuring the Sussexes and their two children on a happy, snappy family visit to a Halloween pumpkin patch. Meg got down to business. Potential customers duly heartwarmed by saccharine footage of the difficult Duchess, hapless Harry and their red-haired youngsters running around to the tune of the Mamas and Papas pop classic California Dreaming. The digital doors to Meghan's electronic shopping mall swung open. Roll up for mundane domestic products at astronomical prices. $14 jars of Scam Jam, $28 honey pots, and must-have dried flowers sprinkles for only $15. Interested? No, me neither. Now haul out the holly, here comes our heroine's fabulous festive rip-offs, accompanied, of course, by Meg's mangled version of English, her trademark hideously over-the-top gush talk that makes you want to say, Meghan, it's just candles, not the Gettysburg Address. But here she goes, waxing lyrical about signature candle 519, scented with Moroccan mint, cardamom, and tea leaves in an intoxicating cocktail that, and I quote, evokes the freshness of a day in the English countryside and captures cherished memories of the ease and joy of Meghan's marriage to Britain's second worst prince on May the 19th, 2018, as in the 19th of the 5th 519. See? Now on to signature candle 084, as in August the 4th, her birthday. This obscenely expensive slice of perfumed heaven apparently comprises water lotus, sandalwood, and California poppy. This, Meg reveals, warms her family home and will, she promises, feel like a hug. What does that even mean? Answers on a postcard, please. 64 bucks each, 50 quid or so in British money. Lots of words spring to mind. Bargain isn't one of them, but it gets worse. Don't miss the latest addition to the Duchess's line of Van Very Ordinaire. After the wannabe royals Rosé Plonk, après le Sauvignon Blanc, savour the delights of her 2021 vintage Napa Valley Brut. Crafted, apparently, from Pinot Noir and Chardonnay grapes. This bank-busting booze is a wallet-draining $89 a throw. But check this out. If you purchase 12 bottles or more, wait for it, drum roll, magnanimous Meg will let you off the $20 shipping fee. So, for a mere $1,068, you save 20. Honestly, who does this out-of-touch woman think she's kidding? Is it just me, or is she living in her own fantasy land full of fabulously rich, gullible suckers prepared to shell out small fortunes on run-of-the-mill tat you can buy for a fraction of the cost literally anywhere else? Call me cynical or call me realistic, but at this ridiculous rate, I predict that in the words of George Michael, this could be, as ever's, last Christmas.
Shazam! I mean, I love that guy. All right. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel. You don't want to miss the recipes that are coming out this week, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale on Amazon, a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.